Ya betukile, ihaniki, wochekyakile. I send my voice to the creator of this beautiful life. Apetuki wakan, the sacred day. Oyatiki iuha, for all life. Opila, we say thank you. This journey we walk on, that my eyes can see far and never leave a warrior behind. We say Wopila Tonka.
Welcome everyone. In this year's solstice video, I want to talk about Native American traditions for the solstice and how they relate to the larger picture of creation. Because if there's one thing that we can take away from these really quite amazing stories and rituals and ceremonies, it's that we don't take the message of them literally enough. These were not just a people who emerged slowly over time and decided that they were going to immortalize some sort of idea. These are stories quite literally of creation. And in fact, the first video that I'm going to use is a story from the Navajo. And it is a great way to begin because they explain exactly what we're looking at the solstice.
May hear little portions of winter stories, but it takes many days, many hours in that to tell the complete what is considered to be winter story, but also it is a story from the time when life first began. Hajine, or when some people in Great Air call it the emergence, but it's actually coming into existence is the correct term.
Stories from the time when life began. These are stories of coming into existence. We should take that quite literally, that is exactly what has been immortalized in these ceremonies. There are several stories like this. One of them is told by the shamans, who play a key role in the rituals, such as Zuni Shalako. And in this ceremony, they dress as a bird deity. And the bird deity is an effigy to the thunderbird. And I've done several videos about the thunderbird and how it formed over the central portion of North America. They are remembering the electrical affectations of creation. And they are remembering it in the solstice tradition as an animism. That is, as a true affectation of life emerging. And the reason they call it a god is because it has a structure of consciousness. It formed in a very specific way, not just as if it had consciousness, but because it is how the gods think. And one of the most important parts about the story that they tell is that the Blackfeet tribe, for example, refer to this as the Natosi, the return of the sun. Once again, we should take that as a quite literal statement. In many mythologies around the world, it is said that Saturn was our first sun, and that sun died. And if you go, Stinky, what do you mean that sun died? What do you think the story of Christ is? But the death of the first son. That son rose from the dead. And so, in very much the same way, the traditions of these Native American stories is the story of the sun's rebirth. And that's why, for example, in several tribes, teepee are oriented to the east in order to greet the rising sun, and they light fires to symbolize the return of the light. This isn't the return of the light as in a yearly return from the solstice. This is an affectation of the literal return of light, as in light stopped and then light returned. And it's interesting because in many ceremonies they beat drums and they sing songs. And you have to understand that part of the magic of animism is that it can be influenced by human intellect, by human consciousness. In fact, it's arguably the only reason humans were needed. If you had, for example, a clock, there would be no reason for the clock to tick were it not for a human to be there to see it. If we weren't there, there would be no point in the clock ticking. Were humans not there to cheer on the return of the light, to return the earth to life, there would be no point in the gods creating it. And so the ceremony of the music and the ceremony of the beating of the drums is like cheering on the system, cheering on the sun, cheering on creation to come into existence. These are the heart of these ceremonies. Several of my videos have talked about how the sun was created in the apocalypse. The current sun that we have was not our first sun, it is the second sun. And in the final moments of creation, you aligned the sun, the moon, and the earth. And in that you had the first eclipse, an eclipse like darkness. Just as the Native Americans say, warriors and powerful ritual participants persuade the sun god to reverse its path and return, preventing permanent darkness. Yeah, reversing its path. Saturn sat below the earth, and by reversing its path, it brought the new sun into existence from the south into the north. This is the heart of the literature and the ceremony and the traditions. It isn't just a warrior fighting for the earth to come into its existence. It is a literal fight for the rising of the sun, which is why teepees are pointed towards the east as the new sun emerged. It is a memory of that moment. Without these rituals, it says, the suns might never come back, dooming crops and lives. Kachina, the guardian spirits from the San Francisco peaks, descended to aid this process, bringing the sun back and establishing life anew for the world. This ceremony represents the second phase of creation, or dawn of life. I'm going to drive this home again because it's just so important. Dawn of life should be taken literally. This isn't a religious statement about creation. This isn't about gods shaking a magic wand. This is talking about the nature and the orientation of the creation of the earth's current state and life upon it. Elders share these stories during this time, teaching respect and harmony. And that respect and harmony is important because the creation story is really about the physical universe and human consciousness coming into a harmony and into an existence where life can exist, where we can inhabit the earth. And that inhabitants, that story of the creation of life, the creation of our existence begins. That's why we memorialize it globally. And that's why the Native American tribes, much like the early people of Europe and of Asia and of the Indonesian islands and of Africa, of the entire world, have a single unified tradition that the solstice is important to our creation. Don't forget to click that like, share, and subscribe button, and leave me your thoughts in the comments down below. Peace out, everyone, and may you have a very blessed solstice.